Okay. So this is the route briefing for San Fran to Kalispell. Got possible alternates of Helena and Great Falls. Aircraft 708. There's your passenger information, bag information, MEL. Estimated time of departure 1340 Zulu. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions during this one, just to kind of like make sure you guys are kind of thinking of maybe the steps and the processes. So first thing you want to do, what is the very first thing we want to do when we get like a packet like this? Open it up.
Look at the mail.
Check the mail.
Check the mail.
Check the mail. Check the MEL.
You've got MEL.
So on our finals, are there going to be multiple MELs?
It can be.
There can be.
It can be, yeah. So
I just noticed like on the ones we've done like previous, there's like 2 or 3, and then this one's just 1. So that's just wondering.
yeah, it just varies depending. Okay, so check the MEL. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go check the MEL. Okay, I'm gonna bring it up. Oops. Oh, come on, just go medium size for once. All right, you guys can you guys see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you guys read through it and you tell me what you guys see.
Icing. Can operate in known or forecast icing conditions.
Operations are not conducted in known or forecast icing conditions. Anything else?
How do we find out what those limitations are?
Well, if it's not in the MEL, like listed as a limitation, then you don't need to worry about it.
No, like that. Conducted in accordance with Chapter 2, Section 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's not physically listed, you don't need to worry about it at all. So if it doesn't say it in here, you don't need to look at anything just besides what it says in here. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I just was wondering because the other day we had to know the whole APU on all the time thing.
Yeah, but that was something we learned in class earlier when we did systems. So that was more of just a reference to something that was already covered in class. So there's nothing you're ever going to have to go look for MEL wise that it doesn't say right here, or that's not something you've learned that's been over and done in class. Okay, so is that it? Just no operations in known or forecasted icing conditions?
That's all I can see.
Consensus? Good? That's it? Okay. Okay, so what does that mean to us then?
Exterior ice conditions.
Okay.
We have to not go higher than
moisture after below 100 degrees.
And then isn't it anything below 70?
70? Does anybody know what represents icing conditions exactly?
below 10 degrees.
So a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius or below and visible moisture present. Okay.
70 degrees is carburetor icing.
Yeah.
That's different.
Hey, you're talking about Cessnas and
I'm talking about
you're talking about little props. We're talking jet engines in here.
getting on the wires.
Okay, so if you have a restriction like this, so we have that's a big restriction, right? It's a tough one to deal with,
Especially with 10 degrees.
especially with 10 degrees. Yeah,
Being
every flight you fly that goes up to any decent altitude is going to be in a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius or less. You guys have seen the temperatures we're dealing with when we get up to 30,000, even 20, anywhere in the 20s. Anything above 24,000 is going to be negative Celsius wise. So, okay, so that being the case with this restriction, what is there anything in your minds like what are you thinking at this point? Like, so okay, so we've got this restriction, but how are you going to find out where do you go from here basically? Where
Check
what
the
are we going to
weather.
look? Check the weather, okay.
METAR's task.
METAR's
METAR's
task.
like right after the ETD or right before the ETD, and it says we're only at 10 degrees right now on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much we can't. So how are we gonna?
Well, so it's the combination though.
Yeah, it has to be visible.
See if this zoom's good. Okay. Okay, so our estimated time of departure is 1340 Zulu. So start with your origin, right? So let's start with our origin and figure out, okay, well, is this icing, are we starting in icing conditions? Can we depart San Francisco? That's the first question.
Yeah.
We can? Okay. So, and what's the parameters that you're basing the fact that we can depart San Francisco?
There's clouds, but there's few clouds, so they're avoidable.
Okay, so what type of clouds would make it so that we couldn't?
I see, or fog.
Rain.
Yeah, so visible moisture present. Is there visible moisture present? There is in the form of clouds. However, the only clouds that we're really concerned with would be clouds that would constitute a ceiling, so broken or overcast clouds. Okay, so it looks like we can depart San Francisco. They are going to have to avoid those clouds, but that's not going to be, that's the pilots. Technically that's legal because the pilots, it's assumed that they can avoid those few clouds at 3,500 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But the temperature is already 10 degrees Celsius, so we're already at the temperature starting right off the bat. So they can depart San Francisco. So what's the next question?
Do we need an alternate takeoff?
Well, let's still stay with the icing.
Oh,
Man.
Okay, so we're going to deal with that MEL. So when you're looking at the MEL, we want to take the consideration of the MEL for the entire flight before we move on, because we want to know whether that MEL is going to, if that MEL is going to make it any legal flight, essentially. So we have to be able to know that we can operate the entirety of the flight with the MEL first. That's kind of the first obstacle. So
Check the weather, like on a guest route, like on a straight line, you look at the weather.
yeah, I mean, you're going to want to definitely see it
first, right?
Yeah, we want to check our destination airport for sure. So, because that's where we're going, right? So we need to make sure we're going to be able to go to our destination. Do we need to know what the ETA is at the destination first, though?
Yes.
Or do we not?
Estimate it, can't we?
Just a minute.
Yeah, we can guess.
You also can look if there's like, if the whole time it couldn't land, then it doesn't matter what time it begins.
Yeah, exactly. So if the whole TAF is icing, then it's not going to matter what our ETA is, right? So let's go take a look at the TAF.
Might snow the whole day.
So the current line, 2 statute miles, light snow, mist, broken 1,000, overcast 2,000.
We have
So our ETD out of San Francisco is 1340 Zulu. So is it safe to assume that our ETA into Kalispell is going to probably be after 1400, right? So it's more than a 20-minute flight, right?
yeah.
Okay. So safe to say that we're not looking at this line, but we're probably looking at these two, one of those two.
you couldn't go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that forecast, the current temperature in Kalispell is 1.
No thanks.
I mean, the fact that there's snow currently, it's currently snowing. The last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 METARs all have snow, mist, low visibility, ceilings. Even without the snow, the ceiling alone is going to impede this flight. And then obviously the TAF The TAF's saying half mile. What's this?
Heavy snow.
Heavy snow. Half mile heavy snow missed. Scattered 100. Broken 100. Overcast 3,000.
A blizzard.
Yeah. Not good.
Not legal.
Not legal. Exactly. So, now what do you do?
Go to the airport.
Your motel room.
Do what?
Go to the airport.
Call crew support? Get him a hotel?
We come and tell you that it's not legal, and you tell us what you'd like us to do with this test.
Exactly. That is exactly what you do. So you get up at that point, you go tell whoever's giving you this exam, or me or the examiner, whoever, and you just walk up and you say, sorry, with that MEL and that forecast, this flight is not legal.
We still use like the 1, 2, 3 rule when we're looking at this stuff. Or what do we look at as far?
Well, right now, the only thing we're considering at all, the only thing we even care about right now is just simply the icing restriction. That's what we're tackling first. We want to make sure the flight can operate with the MELs
Before you worry about alternates.
before we even go any further. Because this is the thing, on a flight like this, if this is your practical, something like this, you've got to bring this up in the first 10 minutes, honestly. You need to know this in the first couple of minutes, but you'll probably be given 20, 25 minutes. If you go beyond 25 minutes, the examiner is going to be like, especially if he sees you like starting to like work stuff up, and he's going to know that you missed it, So it should be before you do any work.
If you miss something like this, do you instantly fail?
Caden, don't ask questions that are going to
Sorry.
freak you out.
I was just wondering, like,
You would. Yeah.
He would just be like, oh,
Yeah.
you already failed.
Yeah, if honestly,
Or would he let you, like, make you go through, like, 2 hours of everything and then be like, oh, you failed?
no,
They wouldn't interrupt you.
Yeah, you if you missed this, and you would be done in the first 30 minutes.
And so they're just mean and make you fill it all out, take 2 hours and do all the work.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm sure at
He's
some
not
point
gonna
you come across
if he sees that you already missed that and you passed it. Trust me, he's not gonna waste your time or his. So he's not gonna sit around when he knows that you missed it. So, but honestly, like I said, you're not gonna get to that point, because you're gonna have to do mine first.
Yeah.
And if you can pass mine, you can pass his. So
at this point, would you say, okay, we're going to delay you? Or would you say, okay, here's a new flight to do?
well, the problem is you can't even
Well-
delay this one.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is like this, at this point,
You just walk up and you say, this flight cannot
operate.
operate, or this flight is not legal. We either need to cancel it, or you need to get me a new plane, or they need to fix this MEL, or something, whatever, right? One of those things. So if the examiner at that point will be, okay, here's this. Okay, we're going to swap you into a different tail number, and then he'll just say, okay, that tail number maybe has this MEL or whatever. Or it has no MELs or whatever. Or he's going to say, okay, maintenance, we called out maintenance and they cleared that MEL. So now you can just go cross it out.
Cool.
Or whatever, something like that, right? Or he's going to hand you new weather. Oh, well, Kalispell's weather just got better. He hands you the new TAF.
Oh.
Any one of those things he could do, essentially. But either way, your job is just essentially to say, this is not legal. And that's the thing, that's what you guys need to just remember. The very first thing you need to make sure of, and that you're looking at as a dispatcher, before you do any work, right? Before you waste any of your energy looking at anything else, you need to make sure your flight is legal from the MEL standpoint, the weather standpoint, those two things. And it's pretty easy to do, honestly. I mean, it's a pretty, the restrictions that make us not legal are blatant. Like the MELs, there's not going to be anything tricky, nothing like hidden. It's just going to be a matter of like, okay, you're going to read this. There's not going to be some tricky little, thing that people are going to, slip up and mess up and not see it. It's going to be, everything is going to be blatantly right in front of you. So But you need to say something. That's the key point. That's what they're looking for in that situation. Okay, so with that said, we'll just clear this MEL, okay? So the MEL no longer exists, okay?
Right.
So everyone have a good understanding of that, of what you need to do. Like the first 5 minutes of you get that weather packet, you get that MEL and the weather, and that's what you're doing. You're making sure you're legal, okay? Okay, so moving along, we're going to say that this MEL was cleared now. So we'll just cross it out, say it doesn't exist. Okay, so now MEL aside, now we have no MELs. So with no MELs, what are we going to now look at? Like what's our next
We're not gonna
objective?
need an alternate, that's for sure.
Yeah. But what's the next objective? Like we cleared the MEL, what's the next step?
Ceilings are low.
Figure out our landing minimums and the takeoff, everything.
Mm-hmm.
See if we need alternates.
Yep. So as far as San Francisco goes, any issues there as far as needing a takeoff alternate? No. Okay. So we know we can depart San Francisco. That doesn't look like it's going to be any sort of a problem. We haven't looked at the NOTAMs, but as far as weather goes, we're good. Okay. So now we're back to Kalispell again. The weather in Kalispell. Still don't know our ETA, but we can still assume that we're probably in one of those two. And most likely we're in the 14 because in order to get to 18Z, we're talking over a 4-hour flight. And it's definitely not 4 hours from San Fran to Kalispell. So just for those of you that don't know, Kalispell, northwest Montana. Okay? Northwest Montana.
Just need to check your landing minimums for that half set to Atlanta.
Okay, so tell me this though. Let's first of all look at it like this. So because we're still kind of on the legality part. Okay. So legally speaking, what do you guys know? What are our in the best case scenario, without even going and looking at Kalispell's weather minimums? What's the best case you guys know? Like what are the best possible landing minimums we're going to have, even to begin with? 400 and a half? Or
401.
401 is an alternate. For alternate. 200 and a half. The best ILS that we have in here, category 1, the best ILS minimums are 200 foot ceiling, half statute mile. So with that in mind, do we have that visibility?
Yeah.
We do.
Visibility,
Yeah.
but we don't have the ceiling.
We don't have the ceiling. Okay. Assuming that our ETA falls in that 1400 line, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it falls in the 1800 line, which highly improbable, but if you if you could make some crazy route that's like 5 hours, you could make this legal. But if not though,
Captain hate you though.
yeah, for sure.
An hour flight.
But they get paid that block time.
Yeah.
Flight attendants are the one that would hate you, right?
I'm still getting paid block time.
I know, but you got to deal with all the passengers. You probably run out of drinks,
Half hours.
on a flight that's supposed to be like an hour and a half. Okay, so legal or not legal?
Not
Legal.
Not legal because of the ceiling. Okay, good. So now what are you going to do?
Take it back again.
So we're talking about, so this is not necessarily alternate that we're still looking at. We're looking at is the flight legal to depart. So in order for a flight to be legal to depart, we have to have our landing. Now, we don't necessarily know that our landing minimums are even 200.5, right? But we know that the best possible scenario, they would be 200.5. So if they're already below the best ones we could even have, then we don't even need to look them up, right? So, okay, so we know that that's not happening. So now what are you going to do?
Take it back to you.
You walk back up and you say, okay. And you could have even addressed this the first time you went up there if you saw it, right? Like you could have walked up the first time and said, okay, two things. This flight, first of all, not legal because of the MEL, and even if it didn't have the MEL, it's still not legal because of the landing minimums. However, in this case, we could delay, right? We'd have to delay it so that the ETA falls after 1800Z, but we're talking of a delay of several hours probably to get to that point, right? But that's an option. That is one thing that would make it legal, and believe me, we have done that before, so it's not out of the question. However, yeah, we delay things overnight all the time. So anyway.
That must be a flash weekend.
Oh yeah, well that was a real Delta flight though, wasn't it? Like mainline Delta, yeah. Fun stuff. So not legal. You walk back up. You tell the examiner, and now it's back on him basically. So he's got to make the decision. Okay, he'll either give you new weather, or say delay it, or whatever. There's no way he's going to make that legal though. You can't swap planes, make that legal. There's nothing that's going to change this except for giving you new weather or delaying it. So, okay, so in this case, we can say, let's see, let's make up a scenario for this one. We'll just say that we're going to delay the flight, and we'll delay it out until,
Not 4 hours.
yeah, the departure time will now be, let's just say 1700 Zulu.
You said it.
Okay?
With the MEL still gone.
MEL's gone.
And we're good to go.
We're going to delay the flight. While the flight was delayed, they worked on the plane, cleared the MEL.
The
Okay.
ceiling's still.
What's that?
Who said?
What'd you say?
Oh, I just said there's a ceiling still, but it's way good, so we're ready to go.
Okay, so now we still don't know our ETA, but
We're gonna make it longer than an hour.
So if he delays it like this, so now we're like delayed out 4 hours, would he give you a new
METAR or something?
METAR for the?
Not necessarily. It'd probably just have you still go off the same weather,
Oh,
just with a later departure time. But you'll still use the weather that you have available to you. So
Now we're in that 1800 mark.
So what's that?
Because now we're in that 1800 mark or after
Yeah.
the 1800.
So we don't, like I said, we don't necessarily know how long this flight is yet. We can, oops. We can bring up Sky Vector. Oops. Sky Vector. We can see how long it is, just straight line wise. So even if we flew this flight direct, which we're not, it's going to be 733 miles. So even I'm just trying to think. What I'm basically trying to have you think of now is whether or not we think we're going to need an alternate.
Yes.
Probably. I mean, unless our ETA is what? What's the only way you're not going to need an alternate? So think of the 1, 2, 3 rule.
So I was thinking you'd still need one.
Or after, if it's 2 or 3
Because you'd be an hour
hours,
before.
Yeah,
The
but
straight distance is an hour.
well,
Or-
What about?
we don't necessarily know the ETA yet, but let's just say, what's the only ETA? Not necessarily the only, but
The earliest ETA.
or in this, yeah, what's the earliest ETA that doesn't need an alternate?
19.
Yeah, 1900 Zulu.
We'd
Because
have to
it-
make it the past those 2 hours, right? That'd be a 2-hour flight, or we would.
Yeah, if your departure time is 1700, then yeah, you've got to. You'll either have to delay it more to make well, the thing is as far as your flight goes, you only need an ETA of 1800 or after. So now we're just talking about just the alternate. So the legality, it just needs to arrive after 1800 or after. That's just to be legal to depart. Now, as far as needing an alternate, if it's arriving after 1900, then it doesn't even need an alternate because the hour before, like let's say it's 1905, your hour before is going to be 1805, which is already going to be, because the 1800 line doesn't need an alternate, right?
Does basically every test with Greg use an alternate?
Yeah, pretty much. You can expect an alternate. You can expect an alternate. You can expect an MEL or two, and you can expect probably like a NOTAM or two that's going to change your scenario. Okay, that's probably the best way to say it. Okay, so that's what we know of this flight so far. We may or may not need an alternate. We don't know yet. We need to actually now probably, and this is kind of where I was saying the other day that sometimes your steps are going to be different depending on the scenario. See, like right now, the thing that you want to know at this point is you want to know if it needs an alternate. With an ETD of 1700, we want to know what our ETA is. So sometimes at this point, you might, if the TAF is obvious that it's not going to need an alternate, then obviously you're not going to bother with that, and you're going to just start doing your route. And at this point, we would normally probably build our route anyway. But the only other thing that we want to look at is when we have crappy weather like this, is we want to take a look at the NOTAMs. So the NOTAMs become way more important with bad weather, right? So like if you have weather that's really close to like to minimums and things like that, you want to check the NOTAMs because the NOTAMs play a lot bigger role when your weather is crappy. So I mean, if you have a NOTAM for all of the ILS runways out at an airport, but your weather is 6 miles, sky's clear, you could care less about the ILS as being NOTAMed out of service because you're not going to need to even use the ILS. However, when you got bad weather like this, the ILS being out of service can affect you, right? So that's the NOTAMs, like I say, they're just going to be more important when your weather's bad. So there's only a few NOTAMs here. So let's just read through those NOTAMs. See what we got. So out of all those, what do we care about?
What does FICON mean?
FICON means field condition. So FICON is stuff that you're not going to necessarily take into consideration for your guys' stuff here. That's really stuff you learn more on the airline level, like in class. But it just means field conditions, and it's all that 555 is basically like a braking report, how well the braking action is for a runway.
Oh, okay. So then the only one's just the runway 12 and 30 that's closed.
Yeah. Runway 12/30 closed except for taxiing between runway 2/20 and taxiway Bravo. So yeah, there's nothing else really. Let's just make sure there's no FTC NOTAMs that are going to change things for us. Is this first one anything we care about?
RNAV.
RNAV.
RNAV, okay. Next one.
Yes, it's ILS and LOC runway 2.
So
Night planning.
it's really just telling us to disregard that note. So it's not actually restricting anything, it's just telling us to disregard that. Okay, that's easy, disregarded. That's it for FTC NOTAMs. Okay, so we know that that's good. So the next thing, let's just take a look and actually go see what our minimums are for real.
Yeah, so there's the range.
Here's Kalispell.
Beautiful.
It is a very scenic airport. Let's scroll down to our airport layout. If anybody ever wants to read these, they're very good information, very interesting stuff. The overview stuff.
There's a river. To the east, there's 2 rivers.
Flathead River passes 2 miles to the south. Anyway, tells you the average temperatures. So here is the airport layout.
See, that Paige told me I was heading in the car.
Okay, so what do we notice about this? Anyone?
The best runway line on the runway 2.
And why is that?
That's nice ILS stuff.
It's the longest runway.
Longest. Those lights.
Okay, so did anybody, when we were looking at the winds and stuff, was
0, 3, 0, 8 knots.
what was it you said, 0, 3?
0, 3, 0, at 8 knots.
030 at 8. Okay, so
Choose 20.
what's that? So which runway would we want to land on?
2.
It says 2, you're saying 20. What are you saying?
Well, say 30, but
runway
it's
2.
closed.
What's it coming
So
from?
020. 020. So the winds are at
You say, what was the wind at?
030.
So it would be 20 then. Right?
No.
So remember the thing about the runways. Here's the thing about the runways. So when you see the numbers like this, just add a 0 to the runway. Okay? So like this runway is an example,
So you want to land on 20.
would be 20. This run 20 would be 200.
But you still
Okay.
want to land on 20.
So I have it here.
But if the winds are 030, the winds are coming from 30. Okay, so when you're looking at these, add a 0. So what's closer to 30? 20 or 200?
20.
20. Does that help?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking when you said, because this is 020, I thought you said then add another 0. So I thought 2
Yeah,
would be
not to the
200.
wind, just add it to the runway.
Okay.
So this
Oh,
20 would be 200. 2 would be 20. Just add a 0 to whatever
Yeah.
runway number.
And it says it under it, yeah.
Yeah, and don't add a 0 to the winds. Just add it just to the runway.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can look at this. Okay?
Yeah.
See that how it says 020 underneath it? And that one says 200. See that? Just you can look at that too. That'll help. Match that number, that little number underneath, match that to the winds. And then, yeah, so runway 2 is going to be the one that's into the wind. And that's good in this case because it has the lights, so most likely has the ILS. Let's keep scrolling on down and go find out. ILS or localizer runway 2. Okay. And what's our minimums? Okay, you're not talking about
200.5.
200.5. Okay. So just a quick quiz on this, okay? What if our localizer was out of service? What are our minimums?
Half a mile a quarter.
Half and a mile and a quarter?
I'm sorry. 574 and a mile and a quarter.
200.
It would be
Could
600.
you blow it up a little bigger?
Yeah, 600
And I'm blurry on my screen, so thank you. Localizer's out.
It's cool.
601 or no?
203 plus, right? Or no?
It's 574, 1 1/4.
574, 1 1/4.
So 600.
Well,
Okay, so what are we doing with the 574?
Rounding it up, 600.
Got to round up to the nearest 100,
600.
and then you're 1 1/4. Okay, so what if the glide slope's out and the approach light system's out?
So 101.
It'd be
200
What's
and
one?
178. Do you need to round those to the nearest quarters? Or do you need to round me with that?
Well, why?
So-
Why? How? Why?
So you're saying 700 and 1 7/8?
I think it's in the, what did we say, what's the load-in thing?
I said 1/2, 700, 1/2.
Yeah, that thing, what is that?
Yes, what's the
Are we
difference
looking
between
in
the
the
two
first
sides?
box?
Because
So-
it'd be 600 and 1 5/8, right?
Yeah, what is?
Yeah. That just means that's if you have, this is kind of more for the pilots, but it's basically if you can identify this intersection. So that's something the pilots are concerned about, but
So 601.
yeah. So 600 and ALS out as well. So
So it says the same thing on the right side. What is the difference between those two?
that's what I was just saying. So
Okay, I'm sorry, about okay.
So
Yeah.
what
that's this. That's more for the pilot stuff. So that's basically if there's something going on that makes this intersection right here or this approach point not identifiable. So in all of the stuff that we do in class, or any of the exercises you'll ever see, you'll never have anything that's like on the without side. So yeah, so just disregard this one completely. Just assume that we always have the width or whatever it's saying. And then, so 600 and then 1 5/8. Okay. Cool. So, but we don't have any NOTAMs that actually are affecting any of that. So our real minimums are 200.5. So if you were writing down, like you could, if you wanted, now that you know your minimums, you could write them down on that other chart instead of, when we have to flip back to them later. But we're going to look at it later regardless. So But if you just wanted to save yourself some time, you can throw it in there already since we now know the minimums. Okay, so we know that we can go all the way down to 200.5. So really the only question at this point is just what the ETA is still on whether we need an alternate or not. Okay. So let's, so we know we're good to land there as long as we land after 1800. And the only other question now really is just departing San Francisco. Just making sure we're good on that side of things. So start reading through the San Francisco NOTAMs. And just call out anything that is pertinent to us.
28 L's closed.
Then on our time of departure.
What departure?
We're at 1700 Zulu now.
28 L's closed.
So 28 left is closed. Okay.
10 right and 2 left is closed.
So the 28 left is technically before our departure now that we've moved it back to 1700. Because that one ends at 1500. So what was the next one you were saying?
I said 10 right,
10 right.
2 left. RCLL out of service.
RC.
RVRN.
Yeah,
And 10 right.
so yeah, the 10 right, 28 left. RCLL out of service.
10 right. 10R closed. 28L closed for takeoff.
Okay.
28 left closed.
So there's a few things in here that are affecting us a little bit. Like really the only thing in here that is important would be like ones that are closed. Any of the RVR stuff is not really a big deal because we have good weather. So take a look at the wind, the current wind. 210 at 3 knots. And if we moved our departure to 1700, what is it saying? What would our expected winds be at 1700?
294.
290, 4 knots, right? Okay, so let's take a look at San Francisco. There's a beautiful view. Yeah, there's our layout. So with that wind, what runways are we going to most likely want to use for takeoff?
The 28 right.
Yeah, everyone agree with that? 28,
Right.
left or right?
I'd say,
The
yeah,
left was
that
closed.
left was closed.
Until 1500 though. Or something.
Yeah.
Something weird. So why not just do the other one?
So 28 left closed till 1500 right there. And then let's see later on here, 28 left closed to takeoff
Yeah, it's.
from 1500 all the way till,
Yeah.
so that 28 left is closed to takeoff. You see anything about 28 right being closed or anything? They keep,
RVR's out.
yeah. So is the RVR going to play a role for us?
No.
No,
'cause it's
good,
weather.
good weather, yep. Anything more? There's these few that we didn't look at, but nothing really more there. Okay. Look at all those
Dang.
obstacles. Keep going, keep going.
Geez, San Fran cleaned stuff up. No, cranes on.
We're good.
San Fran's been a mess last week.
They were a mess today.
Yeah,
Is that what was causing that?
it's the smoke, the fires.
Yep.
I know Skywest, there's a big plaster on the front page, Skywest Online, don't call crew support unless you need to. That's the number one thing that says, all right, don't pick up today.
So anything of concern with this FTC NOTAM?
Yeah. Take off minimums from runway 28 left and 28 right. Standard
Yeah.
medium climbs.
So are we going to be concerned with takeoff minimums as far as today's weather is concerned?
No.
No.
No,
Mhm.
Okay.
seems pretty standard.
That one's an arrival. That's an approach. These are all SIDS. They're all RNAV. So, not of our concern. More takeoff minimum stuff. But once again, good weather, so we shouldn't be concerned about takeoff minimums. This next one is an ILS. We're not landing in San Fran. We don't need a takeoff alternate. Same thing, ILS. These are also RNAV departures here, so aren't you glad that we don't have to worry about RNAV in this class?
Yes, thank you.
My first one, like, man, why can't we use this? It's stinking hard now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
It's more bother than it is help, especially with NOTAM. So arrival, the next two are arrivals. And that's it for FTC NOTAM. So 28 right should be okay then. All right, so we know that San Fran NOTAMs are good. We know that Kalispell NOTAMs are good. We know that the flight's legal. We cleared the MEL. So at this point, we should be good. So now we kind of start doing work. So now it's route building time. Oh, sorry, I should probably stay on that page for just a second. So let's go down and take a look at the SIDS that we can use out of San Francisco. That's a star, that's a star, that's a star, star, SID. Okay, so that is a SID that goes kind of a radar vector SID. So we can use it off of the 2.8s, but it doesn't necessarily have a path assigned to it. Let's take a look at the next one here. This next one is the Mullen 8 departure. It goes to the north. What are we looking for as far as a SID out of San Francisco?
From one of those, the northeast.
North, northeast, right? Yeah. Okay, so that one's to the north. This one is really meant for stuff kind of routing around to the south, going Southern California. Okay. This next one is the San Francisco. So this next one is a radar vector SID. And that's it. So really the only options we have are basically either using a radar vector SID, which is essentially the same thing as just going direct to a VOR, Yep. Or there's this other one, the Mullen 8 departure, which goes up to either Mendocino. Yeah, so the only option is going up to Mendocino, which is kind of more straight north, if not a little bit northwest. So is it in our quadrant? That's the big question.
No.
Not really, right? So we can probably just plan on not using a SID for San Francisco and going straight to a VOR. So if we're going to do that, then let's take a look and just zoom in on San Francisco and see what the nearest VORs are around that connect immediately to jet routes. Yeah, Oakland connects. Oakland connects for sure.
Or maybe even,
Yeah, I mean, Oakland's going to be just straight across the bay. So here's San Francisco.
but Linden might be better for out where we're heading.
Well, so the idea here is when you're having to do this, you want to, you're kind of expected to use a close, like the closest one if possible. So Linden, so this even connects to Linden.
Right.
So if you were to go to Linden, then there's no reason you couldn't go direct to Oakland, J84 to Linden. See what I'm saying?
No.
See,
There's no reason to bypass that.
see J84?
Yeah.
If J84 connects to Oakland, then there's no reason to bypass Oakland when it already connects you to
Oh.
The
Linden.
airport's down there.
Okay.
The airport
Yep,
is right
I see it.
here.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking at first, Code.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the
Already
closest
there.
one. I was looking, yeah, I thought we were already at that.
And if not, it also connects you to this one if you're going to go this way.
I feel dumb.
But we can look at either one. So let's just take a look at which one's better. So Linden has these two jet routes. So so you can either go Oakland and connect up to Sacramento or Oakland and connect to Linden. The Sacramento has these ones that kind of go shooting off that direction. And Linden has J67. So as we start kind of zooming out, it's looking probably like Linden, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it looks like we can stay along that route over there. Anyway, so that's Kalispell right there. So let's go back and take a peek at Kalispell again and just go look at the stars if there are any. So that's a departure procedure and an ILS. So there are no stars into Kalispell. So we're going to end up going straight to the nearest VOR for Kalispell. So let's take a look. So this is the high chart. The nearest major VOR is Mullen Pass down here. That, you know, before. So from here, it looks like if we can connect into Mullen Pass somehow, and then hopefully there's a Victor route that goes from here to the Kalispell VOR. So let's take a look if there is. Yep, there's Mullen Pass, and here's Victor 536, which connects to Kalispell. Yeah.
Can I take that in?
Yeah.
Stay your last day here, man? You're leaving back up tomorrow, huh?
Take it off in the morning, yeah.
What are you gonna do Friday?
Come back in on like 2 weeks or so. I gotta take the ADX first, so
No, I mean,
Oh.
his what?
I'll do it at home. You file 5.5, just not the written one.
Oh, right.
Are you going to the airport with us?
Yeah, there. Take that. And just go.
Oh, yeah, let's all do it.
Okay, take a break.
Power of the mob, let's bust out what we can in
Okay.
45 minutes.
Back from break.
5 minutes.
So this, so it looks like we're going to end up just going straight to Oakland, and then to Linden, and then whatever that jet route was that goes off of Linden. To go back to the high chart. Linden, what is that? J67. So how far did J67?
Almost all the way.
It looks like it turns into J3.
Yeah.
Okay, so J67 to Lakeview. That VOR seems to be in every one of our
Wouldn't it be
flights, doesn't it?
better to go down and then over?
What do you mean?
So,
There isn't a.
yeah, because look, you can follow it this way. I mean, it's a little bit farther down here, but it gets way closer up there. So,
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, does Linden
so,
connect to this?
so you'd go to
No, you go to Orca.
Orca instead.
Okay, so where's Orca?
Right there.
Right there. Down, over, up. Yep, right there.
Sacramento.
So you'd go to there and then get
Sacramento.
on to, I don't know. what this is,
J32?
J32 to there and then go up onto
This one?
yeah,
J7?
J7.
Why am I not finding?
Because then you go to J7, you'd hit this one, and then you'd go to,
J537?
yeah, and then that one, like, look how close, like, you'll stay the whole time after that. And then that also brings you right up to here.
Mullen Pass. Okay, yeah, that
And then
works.
from Mullen Pass, you just,
Yeah.
You rock, brother.
See? That's why we do this.
instead of, because you'd be all the way over there,
Yeah.
if not.
I was just thinking
If you're
to
following that
avoid
other one, you'd be all the way over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here and then go straight over.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back down here and
So it'd be to Sacramento.
so the first one is Oakland.
J332.
So Oakland, J32, Sacktown,
And
then J32, J32
to one
to Mustang,
J7.
Mustang J7,
And that takes you all the way to that.
to Rome,
When in Rome.
REO, then J537 to Mullen Pass. And then that's where we jump on the Victor route, right?
Yeah.
Mullen Pass. Okay, so
What was that J route? J537?
yeah, J537. Okay, so that gets us to Mullen Pass, and then we're going low. Victor 536 to FCA. Okay. See what that does. Not bad. 762.2. Just make sure, so it's following good right here. Then the high chart, just make sure it stays on route as we trace it backwards. Okay. Okay. Yep. Looks good. Okay. So 762.2. So we got a route. So one thing that I kind of wanted to point out a minute ago is that all of the stuff that we did there at the beginning, the only thing hard that should be hard that's left remaining that we haven't done is really the alternate. Okay, that's it. But really the first 20 minutes of the flight are really the toughest part. The rest of the whole flight, the rest of the whole 3 or 4 hours, whatever it takes you, is just
No.
going through the process. But it's not like Yeah, it's math, wind, all that stuff. Stuff that's not going to like be thrown off by a NOTAM or a TAF or things like that. But the big decisions, the legalities, which really are the biggest part of the whole practical, are all done. Most of that stuff, you get through the first 20 minutes and you realize you're legal and your MELs, things like that. Once you know that you can start doing work, like start building a route and stuff like that, really the tough stuff is behind you at that point because you're starting to do the rest of the route, like go through the process, do the fuel, all that stuff, which doesn't really change. Like I said, the only thing left here that we still need to figure out that's kind of still in that category is really just the alternate. Uh-huh.
What do you mean by primary flight controls?
So, well, just
I know those are for sure. I'm just trying to debating on. I don't know if it means in flight or total operation.
just total operation, yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
that are considered in that category.
Okay.
So now that we've got our distance here, we've got the route. See, the route's fast. Now, if you're doing this on the charts manually, it would have taken just a little bit longer because you got to go through and add up all your distances. We're not using a SID or a star in this case, so that hard part of the routing is really done as far as adding up the distances. That part is a little bit more time consuming if you're doing it manually, but as far as this goes, adding up those distances would really just take a couple of minutes. So we've got the route. So now let's figure out an ETA. So it's 762.2 miles. What speed are we using? 400. That's our initial, right? So what's our estimated time en route based on that?
An hour and 54 minutes.
That's what I got too. Get really excited about the time.
I had a hard time with that too.
I did too.
I got something going on.
No, I haven't.
Did you get 5 by rounding up the 33?
I'm sorry, what?
So you did the .33? You just rounded it up.
I got 114 minutes and 20 seconds.
So take off an hour, and then what is it? Give it to me in hours and minutes.
That's an hour and 54.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 155.
1 hour, 54 minutes, 20 seconds.
Good
And
deal.
I was like, how
So
did you
everybody's
get
getting the same thing here, right? Hour 54. I got an hour 54.33.
That's what I got.
So yeah. Okay, good.
Can you go over, so take the distance divided by 400,
By speed.
762.2 divide by 400. It's going to give you
19055.
Yeah.
And then
So if you want, so
905.
And then drop the 1 and times the .0 or .9055.
I didn't put the decimal back. I was like, this isn't working.
even if you did, so you can do like that, or you can leave it like this and just times it by 60 right here. It'll give you 114. That's just going to be total minutes, and then just go minus 60. And then that's 54.3, but then you just have to remember that there was the other hour that you minused. So, okay, hour 54.33. So if you got 10 minutes on the taxi out,
Would be
So
2 hours and 4 minutes.
okay, so if your ETD is 1700 Zulu, 1904. Yep, so question is, does this flight need an alternate based on that?
4 minutes.
So now tell me this, just a hypothetical question here. So this, we've obviously done this now based on the initial, right, the 400 speed, which we've coming up now with, put in the taxi out, we're thinking 204, so the 1, 2, 3 rule now based on that does not need an alternate because it's 1904 ETA, hour before is 1804. However, tell me this, what do you think we do if, let's say we start, we do that, we plan it this way, no alternate, but then let's say we go through our actual flight plan leg and it ends up being a little bit shorter.
Well,
Let's say we have a really strong tailwind that we don't know about right now.
Let's just say we plan one, whether you need it or not, just to cover that. As we call it in real life, it's called a paper alternate.
Yeah. So yeah, in real life, that's probably what you would do, because let's say in real life, what if the flight, and this is something that you actually do worry about in real life, because if the ETD is 1700 Zulu, right? What happens a lot of the time? A lot of times you leave the gate 4 or 5 minutes early.
Yeah, like if you are delayed,
You
you're
know.
gonna be boarded up, ready to go, the door is closed, maybe even before this.
Yeah,
You might
exactly.
already be pushed down there.
Yeah.
If it's cleared or whatever.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we're not going to throw those kind of scenarios into our stuff to make it more complicated. But the thing is technically, once we start going through the actual flight plan, and calculate the actual winds and the legs, it's very possible that we might end up coming up later with a time that's a little bit shorter and might actually fall into where it needs an alternate.
And then
So
you could just
we've
always
only
go
got
back
4
up
minutes here to
too,
play
right?
with.
So keep an eye on it.
You could, or yeah, like she's saying too, you could just add an alternate. So now let me just tell you this. So you're never going to get docked for adding an alternate. Okay, so now let's say this. Let's say in this situation, let's say you choose to add an alternate. Okay, because I like the way that Andrea's thinking here, because it's how you want to think. Okay, and as long as you can explain yourself, right? As long as you can say to the examiner, once you get done with the flight plan, you give it to him, he's going to say, well, let's see, it didn't need an alternate, but you added one. If you can say, well, yeah, because I did my initial and I realized that I was within 4 minutes of needing one, and just in case, if you can just say, I added a provisional alternate and be able to explain why you did, and it's technically erring on the side of caution, safety, then you'll probably get even more thumbs up, from the examiner. He'll probably think you're even more prepared. So feel free to do that if you want to do that.
Could you look at your winds aloft and then kind of make that
You
decision?
you could go jump into your winds aloft and do a quick average, just like we do. We're going to be doing that technically on one of the next steps coming up here, right? After the weight and balance, we're going to be taking the winds aloft and doing a full average anyway. So if you wanted to go ahead and do that right now just to kind of see what your winds are looking like, you could.
Down that thing, pretty quick, 'cause you kind of got an idea of your heading.
I wrote it down.
So let's just go
All the
look.
stuff I have to make sure.
Let's go look at the winds aloft.
Of course, we don't know our elevation, right?
Yeah, but we also know that we don't have anything restricting us though either. So unless you have an MEL that's restricting your altitude, regardless of the temperatures, even if it's the worst ISO temperature, you can usually assume that you're going to at least get 34.
39.
Yeah, if not better. So just even looking at 34 and 39, we've got one of those crazy numbers in there.
Ooh,
Does anybody know how to convert that?
Minus 50.
minus 2 at 100.
Minus
It's minus 50, isn't it?
50.
Minus,
Minus 5 off the front, so it's
minus
260
50 out of 1.
Out of 100 of the whole wind speed.
yeah, so this one right here. So what is this one at 39,000, this top one?
25 at 157.
106.
258.
106.
Yeah, 106. 250 at 106 knots.
Wow. So everything's kind of the same direction, 26, 27, 26.
Which is
Good.
blowing which way? So if you got 270,
Northeast, basically?
well, 270 is
Oh, that's straight west.
straight out of the west,
Yeah, that's fine.
blowing directly east.
So that's,
And we're heading east, so it's looking like we're going to have a tailwind. Just kind of skimming over that. And take a look at these wind speeds. Yeah, 106, 105, 79, 79, 47. It dies down once you get closer up into Idaho and up into Montana, but even at 34,000, we're 99, 101, 76, 98. Pretty strong tailwinds. I mean, it's not a direct tailwind. It's not going to be a huge tailwind necessarily, but it is a tailwind, and it is pretty strong. The wind speed overall, that is. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thinking that you want to think here. So, did anybody by chance grab that average heading when we first did this? Did anybody grab the average heading?
019.
Okay. So 019. So yeah, I mean, the quicker you can make little assumptions just by glancing at stuff like this, I mean, that's kind of how you want to be thinking. So I like, when you're saying just glance at your headings real quick, glance at your speeds. You don't even necessarily need to whip out a calculator in this scenario here if you can just quickly think, let's 2.7 and 2.6, 2.5. I mean, those are winds out of the west, and then they're pretty, you can look at those speeds at either altitude and know that, you're definitely going to have a tailwind on this route. So
if you've got a parallel diagonal wind, say if you're headed straight north and you've got a west wind, I mean, that's not, would you go 400 knots then? If that was your airspeed that you were calculating?
if you've got a direct crosswind,
Because you've got to allow for that, so it's actually kind of a headwind, isn't it?
not necessarily. It's just planes handle that a little bit differently because the plane can still maintain the same course. It does have to, it has to nose into the wind a little bit in order to, maintain it. But a direct crosswind on an airplane is usually, if it is literally a straight up crosswind with no headwind, no tailwind, I mean, you're just going to be exactly your true airspeed for your ground speed normally. It might be 1 or 2 knots off, but not much. It's usually going to be straight up. So anyway, it's a safe assumption that you're going to have the tailwind, and you might end up doing better than those. You might end up less than the 1904 arrival. So yeah, you probably want to add an alternate. So with that said, what were the alternate options here? Alternate options are Helena and Great Falls. So we're thinking we're going to be right somewhere 1850, 1900 ETA. Let's go look at Helena and Great Falls.
So when you put these options on, we're already within an hour, right? Those options, those alternates in there, no, so within an hour, still there, right?
You're thinking takeoff alternate.
Oh,
That's just a rule on the takeoff alternate. There's no distance rules on destination alternates.
okay.
And will those be given at the top like they are in here in the practical?
Like the weather packet? Yeah, I mean, the
Like
format
the
may not be
option.
exactly like that, but he'll have the weather in the packet though. So if you're seeing weather for a city that's not either your origin or your destination, you can assume that it's an alternate option. Yeah. It may not say possible alternate, like the little thing that I threw in there. So what is the weather in Helena that would probably fall into our ETA if we used Helena? As
Statute miles, snow, overcast, 7.
I think, well, if our ETA into Kalispell is
Is
19-ish,
So we'd fall in the 15. So it'd be okay to use that as an alternate, right?
well,
We'd have to still double check, but we're okay for there right now, right? There's 2 statute
Potentially.
miles and a 700-foot ceiling.
potentially, yeah. So what's the best possible alternate minimums?
What was it, 4 and 1?
401, but that's assuming we have 2 ILSs that are both 200 and a half using the 2 navigate rule. So
What is it then? 2?
So if you were using the 1 nav, what's the best possible 1 navigate alternate minimums?
I know that.
2 statute miles and 6? Is it 6?
The best possible 1 navigate alternate minimums are 600, 1.5, because you'd be adding the 401 to a regular ILS.
Wait, can you say that again?
That
Sorry,
sounds right,
what?
600.
Because I have written down what you said the other night, is 1 navigate is 400 and 1,
ceiling and 1.
and 2 is 200 and
It is, but those are the numbers that you add to the minimums. So what I'm saying is the best possible 1 navigate minimums is you add the 400 and the 1 to your minimums.
Gotcha.
So the best possible minimums, regular minimums you can have is 200 and a half. And if you add 401 to that, based on the 1 navigate, then you're going to be 600, 1.5.
Gotcha, okay.
And the 2 navigate would then be 401 because you're adding 200 and a half to 200 and a half. Okay, so it does.
On that class tonight that I had to do
Yes.
here? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
go with that.
Yeah, those are the alternate minimums. So 2 statute miles snow. So it does potentially. We're gonna have to go. Now we've seen Helena. We know that they have. This is like the 3rd time we've probably seen Helena in some way, either as a destination or an alternate or whatever. But so we just got done looking at Helena last night. So we already know that they have a ILS that's down to 200 and a half. However, I don't necessarily remember the runway heading, and I don't know if it lines up with that wind, but just taking kind of another like shortcut approach here, looking at that wind, 240 at 8, regardless of what the ILS is in Helena, whatever runway it is, based on that wind, would it be okay? And why?
Because
It's not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what direction 8 knots is going, it's not going to exceed the tailwind, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So that's kind of these are the little things, like the little thinking things that I want you to always be able to kind of just start reasoning, like in your head, like eliminating little things like that.
Tailwind's 15 knots, is that right? Or is it 10?
For where?
This is
10. You can't exceed 10.
The max tailwind is, you can't exceed 10. Okay, so that's good. So that's Helena. It's probably going to work barring the NOTAMs. So let's take a look at the NOTAMs. So what's the first one that just sticks out like a sore thumb as far as thinking about everything we just talked about?
Signs and all light. Or what LGT?
Light.
Light. Okay.
23 all lights.
Is there anything before that sticks out?
Oh, I started reading.
Your localizer on the 270s.
Boom, boom, boom.
I thought that's what we were talking about, and you said, other than that was acceptable.
Yeah, me too, that's
what you just said.
I did?
Yeah.
We just read
I
that
thought
one.
you were saying you were reading flagged and light
No,
as.
we were reading what you have highlighted, and that's why we're like, what else?
Like, yeah, like, I don't know. Then
Oh, I thought, because you weren't, I thought you were saying something about lights.
Oh, that was me.
She
That
asked
was the
what
next
light
thing
was.
we said when you
Okay.
told us about that.
Oh, that's why I was confused. Okay, so this, yeah.
He's like, anything else?
This one.
What about this
You're
one?
like, the one I just told you, but.
Okay, so is this one a problem?
Yeah.
What's our ETA?
So you got 3 hours buffer. It's not a problem.
Maybe 3 hours.
Oh, that's 1 hour.
1,500 to 1,800, or 1,900 or
We're 1900-ish to Kalispell.
Whatever the other ones.
That's before we divert.
Yeah.
So we're definitely after 1900 to Helena.
Yeah.
So we're
probably
okay
not
then,
gonna
right?
be.
Yeah, so this is, obviously it's meant to throw you off, but the ETA is 1800. So some people might, if you don't look at these, make sure you're looking at these, because a lot of people would probably just eliminate this as an option based on the NOTAM. Because you know that if this NOTAM really did exist, it's definitely going to push your alternate minimums over this, because you're not going to get those low ILS minimums with the localizer out. It's going to put it into that next category to the right, which is going to bump the ceiling and everything up. So, but this is obviously your linchpin here with this NOTAM. So, okay. So, anything else with Helena?
523 closed to 23.
Yeah, that one's closed.
Isn't that one tiny?
Yeah, this is probably, but now that we know that the ILS is to 2.7, yeah, we can probably assume that this one is not one that we'd be using anyway. Okay, good. So there's that. How about FTC? That's an RNAV. RNAV again. Departure. Another RNAV. Okay. Look good. Let's check Great Falls just in case. If we're going to Great Falls, where's our ETA going to fall on that TAF?
Oh. Top one.
Yeah,
second line?
it's going to be this line.
Because it's right before the
Could
second.
technically use that too,
Because it'd be within.
but it'd be right close.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be close to one of
All
these
their
two.
runways, it looks like their ILSs are on all of them. Localizers, all kinds of stuff out of service. So that's not awesome.
Well, let's take a look here though. So when is this out of service?
Oh,
Not very on time.
not very long time. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, so we're actually on the 13th here. So we're getting in like on the 13th at around 1900, 1930. So this is actually for the next day, the 14th at 23. Anything else in there? Everything else looks good. DC NOTAMs are all RNAV stuff. Okay. So, go back to our trusty friend Helena. And let's just hurry and double check the NOTAMs for Helena. or not that, no, I'm sorry, just let's double check the landing minimums. The other thing is, since we're using Helena as an alternate, we need to make sure that we can use that ILS in our alternate minimums. So let's take a look here. So Helena, for filing as an alternate, we can read over here ILS Y, runway 27, ILS Z, runway 27. Now this is saying only when the tower is operating. So many things in this flight plan to just potentially send you different directions.
This one takes you 5 hours.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this has a lot of stuff like in the the little notams that are the different times, and it's meant to get you thinking. So authorized only when the tower's operating. Yep. So if you go back up to the top, let's see here. Sometimes it says it up in here. If it doesn't say it on these charts, then where do we look?
The airport direction.
The airport facilities directory. And if you don't have SkyVector, what's that going to be? That little book. Oh yeah, the book. No, I don't have the book. Yeah, so it's going to be in the book, and the book.
It's going to tell us what.
The book is going to tell you when the tower's open. So if we have to go to Helena.
I was hoping like you had the screenshot of it somewhere in our little packet.
Yeah.
It's what I was assuming.
Where are you, Helena?
Comfy.
There's Great Falls. Gosh,
It's just like sitting.
why can't I find Helena? Oh, there's Helena. Okay, Helena. Go into the Helena, and then the airport facilities directory, if you were to open the book, looks like this. This is what that page looks like. So let's go down here. You go all the way down to the tower, and then this over here tells you the hours that it's operating.
So we're good.
And it tells us in Zulu. So if we're going to get there at 19:20, where somewhere in there, is it open? We good? Okay, great. Okay, back to this. Where were we?
So if it wasn't good though.
If it wasn't good, that means you can't use the ILS in your alternate minimum calculation.
Okay.
Either of these two.
So you have to move all the way up.
Then you would have just this localizer DME and all this RNAV stuff over here. Well, you can't use the RNAVs, but yeah, so you really, not much. So let's go take a look at the ILS. Remember, Helena's the one that has those two, the Y and the Z ILS. The Y was the higher minimums, and the Z was the lower one. So this is the Y, and that was the 601 3/8. And then the Z, which is the better one, is the 200.5. Okay, so 200.5. If you just use just the one navigate rule here, add 401.
Yep, 401 and 1/2.
And we're just barely
601 and 1/2.
Yeah, 601 and 1/2. You're just barely. You just barely have what you need there. Got a half mile better and 100 feet better. So we're good though. It's legal. List it. Looked better than Great Falls, at least. So
We could have used Great Falls though too, right?
I don't know. I mean, that one was right at 600 feet, so we'd have to go look. But at this point, if we've got a legal one here, we know that the weather in Great Falls is worse, so might as well just use the better alternate. So, okay, good. So the only other thing now is go back to this, back to our charts here. Did you guys write down the route?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, copy. I'm going to clear it out for a minute and put GPI to Helena. That distance is 138. Let's just call that 138. So maybe jot down that heading and that distance. 122? Yeah, 122. So if you've been doing notes and stuff this whole time, as far as keeping organized here, you should have like just a section that's just like San Fran stuff, a section that's Kalispell stuff, considerations for Kalispell, and now a section for Helena. So this would be like, you could have your minimums that your minimums for Kalispell, your minimums for Helena, the alternate minimums. And now, as far as putting this in there, you can jot that down. Your distance from Kalispell to Helena is that 138, and the average heading is 122. So if we wanted to calculate how much time that is, we're still just using that 400 speed here. Yeah.
21 minutes?
20.7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we just round that up to 21 though, right?
Sure. Just round it up to 21 if you'd like. Okay. So we're good. So now that 21 minutes, just put that in your alternate note column there, and
Is that what KTAS is?
knots true airspeed.
Oh.
You don't want to fill that out yet.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're not the right numbers.
Well,
I guess right there.
Unless you're doing numbers. I mean, the stuff that can for sure be filled out is your origin, destination, things like that.
Yeah, that's all I have.
That's fine. And your route. Your route's good too.
Yeah, that's all I
So,
That's what I need to do.
okay, so figure out, we've got the estimated time and route based on the 400 speed. So now go ahead and get yourself an estimated fuel for the whole thing, including going to your alternate.
The whole thing?
Yep. You want to do them separately, obviously, to the destination, and then just do a separate little one just for the alternate, so that you know the two different fuels.
Something different. So what I said to use is the departure. Or do you,
For your simplified?
Yeah.
The departure.
Departure.
Yeah.
are we adding in reserve fuel and that stuff too? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you want to separate your burn, obviously, but then, yeah, get your total fuel. Get it so that you can jump into your weight and balance.
So we wanted to do the alternate separately because
Well, just so you know the fuel amount.
it's just for the alternate.
Yeah, and then you still combine it, you know, when you do your weight and balance and everything, but you want to know the separate numbers.
Gotcha.
So.
Are we doing the weight and balance?
Yeah, you can go ahead and jump into it.
Will you tell us what plane we're on again? I can do your guide so I can look.
Your numbers.
And 708, that's
This is my phone. Yeah, it's one of my big pains in my booty every day.
What we did yesterday was my phone.
Awesome. Are we doing winter weights now?
No.
Not yet.
You don't see the date?
Oh, no, I didn't see the date. Okay, no.
11/1.
Good to know. Any of these?
Yeah.
One of those, I'll just do it on paper right here. That's fine. I can just do it like that. All that does is line everything up. I'm okay.
Alright.
So quick question for everybody. The Denver flight is delayed a little bit getting in tonight. It's normally supposed to get in about 8:40, but it's delayed by about 45 minutes.
How much?
Is it by 45 minutes? We can still go. I just didn't know how you guys are, if being a later time now.
I'm fine.
If you guys are okay going later, we can still go.
I don't work tomorrow, I just have class. So, all my friends are in the movies. So. Besides you two. Oh, and you too.
Oh my God, why?
They're not our friend.
Well, pretty much my friends are here,
Hold on to that, thank you.
here or at the movies, or they're Aubrey, and I don't know where Aubrey is.
She couldn't get a picture.
Oh.
If not, we could do tomorrow night.
No. In case you want my opinion on that.
Yeah.
I can't, not tomorrow. But God could always put it done.